T69 match on mines. This isn't so much a demonstration of how to play the T69 from my perspective, but how to not play it from the perspective of the enemy T69. I don't end up doing a huge amount of damage this match, about 2200 I think it was, which is, you know, not terrible for a tier 8, but it's not exactly brilliant either.
Let's get this show on the road.
The main thing I want to demonstrate is actually what happens when you have somebody that hides in the back with their autoloader trying to farm damage instead of actually trying to consciously win a game, and as a result I'm going to be spending lots of time sort of narrating what's going on as just talking a little about play styles. I play to win. I prefer to, you know, get a good match where I do lots of damage and get to carry the team, but I can't do that every match, and a win where I don't do a lot is honestly still better than a loss. If I have to suicide out my tank or, you know, take one for the team, I'll do it. Because ultimately, well, the tanks is a team game, and it's about winning for the team, not about getting really huge damage and then losing because you hit in the back the whole time. Unfortunately, because of the way stats, or particularly WN ratings and before that efficiency, are calculated, quite a few people take it upon themselves to find the quickest way to gain their stats up without actually playing really well and playing to win. So please excuse my terrible aim here. What you end up seeing is a group of players who try and stay out of the action as long as possible, staying in camouflage at the edge of the enemy's rendering distance, just firing off shots at whatever they can see until either their team wins the game for them or the team collapses and, you know, they're forced to face a bunch of enemies alone, which will almost inevitably end in a loss, but will at least give them a huge amount of damage before such a thing happens. And in this case, that's exactly what's going to happen to the enemy T69. The catch is that on this particular occasion, his little attempt at damage farming didn't work. He only got in about 600 damage, I think, and 2 kills. He clipped into me and he clipped into Risk, and that was his contribution to this match. Meanwhile, as you can see, I positioned myself pretty aggressively. I got up on the hill as soon as I spotted the enemy 416 going to the island. I was thinking of coming to the base of the hill and catching him on the way up. As soon as I saw he wasn't actually contesting it, I decided I'd come up myself, because there's nothing else on the enemy team other than their T69, who also didn't come hill, that could really pose a problem to me up here. And then of course, once you take the hill, you have control of the map, which is the most important thing on mines. It's having that control, having that ability to spot and shoot into the enemy base. So the enemy T69 has been lit. He's actually taken some pretty big hits there, and he runs off to resume his camouflage sniping from the back. As you can see, he popped Risk as he was peeking over the ledge. That's actually, I think, what got him spotted and shot at. And now, as I come down, he'll do the same thing to me. 416 gets a shot in. This is the unfortunate problem about positioning out in the water as well on this map. You'll either have an amazing game or you'll be irrelevant. And in this case, the enemy 416 was caught in a position where he just couldn't do much. It wasn't his fault. You can't really predict it. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles. So here we have the enemy T69 hiding up back behind 2 rows of bushes and a rock, and we had to have VK drive into base and proxy spot him before anything was done about it. So it was as an attempt at farming damage, probably to try and pad out his WN8. Certainly not trying to win for his team, otherwise he would have taken a more aggressive position. There's no reason not to push out of the base. If you're maybe in like a T95 or something, really any tank destroyer, I suppose you could excuse it. So if you're in a tank destroyer, sure, you can stay in the base and shoot from there. I could maybe not excuse it, but understand it in something like a Panther or a Chiri, very, very fragile tanks that need to, well, not need to, but are best utilized by pubbies when they're firing from long range. But in the case of a T69, it is fragile, doesn't have much armor, and it's very easily ammo racked. It's a very small tank, so it's quite liable to take in module damage. At the same time, though, because of that fantastic gun, it's not a defensive tank. It's a tank you play offensively. You get into a good position and hold it, or use it to flank around people and fuck them up. You don't try and snipe from the back of the map. It evidently does not work. The previous times I've seen T69s try and do the same thing, which is, snipe from their spawn and hope that their team carries them. In the last memorable case, it was actually a really good player, or at least his stats said he was really good. He didn't play according to his stats. He ended up doing like 3 or 4k damage, sure enough, but he threw most of our team under the bus, including me, by failing to actually use his gun when he needed to, and all his damage was at the end of the game after it was already lost. So the T69 might have an autoloader with pretty awesome potential for damage, but if you aren't positioning yourself right and using that damage when you need to, it doesn't count for anything anyway. Honestly, if you want to just play for personal glory and get 1,000,000 kills and huge amounts of damage, but fuck the rest of your team, go play War Thunder. I really don't need that in tanks. I play tanks so I can win. And that's what team games are all about. I really just don't understand the mentality of people who play team games and then don't have any interest at all in winning for their team. It's very bizarre. Anyway, let this be a lesson to you. Don't hide and snipe in autoloaders. That includes the French autoloaders, by the way. Don't hide and snipe in those either. The 50, 100, 50 or 20 and 50B are all fast for a reason. It's so you can get up in good positions, and bully medium tanks. That's what they're for. Or, flank other heavy tanks. Any tank with decent mobility and an autoloader should be used offensively. There's no reason to use them defensively. The Waffenträger 100 even, in the right hands, can be used offensively. Mostly on city maps. You wouldn't want to do it on, say, Malinovka or even Mainz to an extent, but on, say, Himmelsdorf or Ansk, you can definitely use a Waffenträger 100 offensively. The Foch used to be like the hallmark of offensive autoloaders, but unfortunately for Foch players, it apparently is not very fun to play anymore since the nerf. On the plus side, it's a lot more fun to fight against because they don't obliterate me while bouncing all my shots now. So, unfortunately, because Wargaming haven't got round to doing or implementing server-side replays yet, I can't actually show you the full game from that guy's perspective. I wish I could, because I'm curious just how many times he shot at people and what he could see that whole time he was hiding in the back. But I think you can get the gist from what you saw from my perspective. He just sat behind multiple bushes, sniping away shots when he had a clear shot at somebody, and he could get away with it and not be spotted. Very passive play. And in my opinion, very, very bad play. Don't do that if you're on my team, please.